program of action. What is lacking is really the implementation, full implementation of those documents, which now are universal documents. Let me also remind you that the HRC61
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this important side event. My name is Ahmed Mifreh. I am the Executive Director of Committee for Justice, and I am welcoming all of you. I will give the floor to our moderator, Awa Belda, to moderate the side event. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for those seeking translation to French, it's in the Russian channel. Russian channel. Yes, it is indeed, which is a good start. Which number? Is it 0? Yeah. Ça marche? Le 0 pour la traduction en français? Ça marche, non? OK. 0, ça marche? Ça, 0. Oui. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this side event on Sudan. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Is it? Ça ne marche pas? 3. French, channel 3. Ça marche maintenant? OK, d'accord. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this side event in Sudan, organized by Committee for Justice, together with Special Procedures, the African Commission, and also the Committee of Inquiry on Sudan. As you know, the armed conflict in Sudan continues to generate grave human rights violations and humanitarian consequences, including patterns of unlawful killings, indiscriminate attacks, conflict-related sexual violence, arbitrary detention, enforced disappearances, and acts tantamount to enforced disappearances, and large-scale displacement. In this context, victims and survivors face urgent protection needs, while accountability pathways remain fragmented and difficult to access. This is why the side event has been organized with a view to provide a focused platform to advance practical victim-centered coordination that strengthens the protection and reinforces accountability. As you know, it will last for 1 hour, so without further delay, I will give the floor to our first panelist, Your Excellency Idrissa Sow, the Chairperson of the African Commission on People and Human Rights. Welcome, Commissioner Sow. Please, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Awa Balde, pour.
Thank you for giving me this occasion and this side event in order to deal with the issue of human rights. And as you know, I belong to a body defending human rights, especially in Sudan. We actually did many field operations in the Chad territory. We published many reports with the Vice President, and we'll explain all this in details. And we'll speak about at the end of the recommendations and the reflections. I will make an introduction and give you an idea about our attending this side event. I personally came together with my delegation because we work with the African Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the organizer of this side event in order to reinforce the mechanisms of protection of human rights in Sudan. The situation in Sudan continues to to give a black situation of what happened now. We have a information about sexual violation, arbitration, arbitrary. We have unjust arrestation of civil population. It's important for us that regional and international mechanisms must be implemented and to coordinate our efforts in order to protect the victims, especially the civil, and also against any form of impunity. In this context, we have a road plan and a document of the African Union relating to human rights, which can be used as a strategic roadmap for us in order to implement the regional and international human rights mechanisms. This roadmap will help us to strengthen these mechanisms and also to strengthen the independence of our mandate. First, it will help us to reinforce, to strengthen, and promote these mechanisms at the African level, and to have these important information and use it in order to use it in the transitional justice in the future. Second, it will help us to implement sure and objective mechanisms in order to deal with the witnesses and fact-finding elements in this. Third, it will ensure to use the best way all this information in order to fulfill our responsibility against any forms of impunity. In the case of Sudan, we have to use these different elements, as I told you, in order to prepare the reinforcement of the institutional principles and to develop a good, clear message in order to show people that we will commit ourselves in order to respect international humanitarian law, and also to share all the important elements dealing with human rights, and in order to contribute to reinforce the initiatives relating at regional and international level. The experience shows us that we do not only need these first steps, but we need to have more information from the different countries in order to protect and to prevent these violations of human rights. That's why it's important for us to have a good cooperation between the African Union and the United Nations. And that's why it's important for us to have joint efforts in order to promote and rehabilitate the victims. The African Commission, as I told you, is encouraging us to continue and do the follow-up of this information. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Mona Rashmawi, member of the Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Sudan. Please, Dr. Mona, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to join this event and to be on the panel with the African Commission Fact-Finding Mission and the Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, and with you, Madam Chair. While the work of our own fact-finding mission focuses on accountability, Our efforts together are complementary, highlighting the imperative to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure during conflict. Our recommendations in this regard are all aligned. I thank the organizers for this important meeting and look forward to hearing the other panelists. With regard to the protection of civilians, I have to say that the recent reports on attacks against medical centers, personnel, and patients in Darfur and beyond are deeply alarming, and our team is actively investigating these allegations. During this session of the Human Rights Council, we presented our report on Al-Fashir, concluding that attacks that led to its takeover by the rapid support forces bear the hallmarks of genocide. We did not reach this conclusion lightly. It is grounded in a careful analysis of the modus operandi through which these violations were carried out. Our mission found that the violence committed by the RSF in and around Al-Fashir forms part of a coherent, widespread, and escalating course of conduct directed in particular against the Zaghawa and Darfur in the context of a prolonged siege. We documented a widespread and systematic pattern of killings, including mass killings throughout the city, at exit points, at the brims, at the university, at the Saudi hospital, and continuing along the routes of displacement, alongside ethnically targeted rape and other forms of sexual and gender-based violence, arbitrary detention, torture, and cruel treatment, enforced disappearances, extortion, and forced displacement, contributing directly to the destruction of fabric of society. These acts were combined with deliberate imposition of conditions of life incompatible with survivor, including starvation, denial of humanitarian assistance, and the destruction of medical care. These acts were committed with knowledge, organization, and repetition, and were accompanied by dehumanizing and exterminatory language. Taken together, the scale, severity, and cumulative impact of these acts present indications pointing to genocide in and around Al-Fashir. We have identified some of the perpetrators and are cooperating with judicial bodies in line with our mandate to ensure that they are brought to justice. A key concern today is the risk of repetition. There are credible allegations that the modus operandi we identified in Al-Fashir may spill over and be replicated elsewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of the conflict in Sudan is also felt across the region. In addition to the massive displacement, cross-border attacks are affecting regional security and stability. The recommendations in our report reflect the urgency of the moment. Immediate measures are needed to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. We echo in this regard the African Commission's recommendation to deploy a peacekeeping force. The international community must act decisively to disrupt and deter the repetition of this pattern, including through coordinated diplomatic engagement, targeted measures such as sanctions and support for monitoring and early warning efforts. Accountability pathways must also be reinforced through the preservation of evidence and support to justice mechanisms, particularly the International Criminal Court. Accountability remains a key tool of prevention, and our joint panel here shows how we are all committed to achieve this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mona. If you allow me now, I will give the floor to Commissioner Commissioner Hatam Hissem, Vice President of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. And he is the head of African Commission Fact-Finding Mission on Sudan. Please, Commissioner, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Merci pour la parole.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I present to you all my respects. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, the African Commission was mandated by the official commission in order to make investigation on the situation of human rights in order to identify the responsibilities and also to document all these incidents. We have a resolution of our commission. I work with 4 investigators, and I am also the special rapporteur. And I have 4 colleagues were elected. We have 1 chairman. I have Mr. Salman Sassi, who is the investigator in charge of the displaced people population and also for the asylum seekers. We have 2 other investigators dealing with the conflicts, and my other colleague also in charge of the indigenous population. During this investigation, we use a methodological scientific approach. It was a hybrid approach consisting of assembling all the evidences using impartiality and independence. And as you know, we don't have sufficient financial means. We worked not in a field. We gathered all the information, and we listened to we listened to the testimonies of the victims and witnesses. We received 28 reports, written reports, and we made 38 interviews with the victims and the witnesses. And we received more than 30 digital documents from Sudan or from the diaspora of the Sudanese people. And we gathered, collected, and we analyzed all these is the open source intelligence. And also we use the metadata information with the chronological patterns. All this work we could prepare at that time. And a first report that was adopted and accepted by the Commission last July. And this report is public now. In this report, we have now the civil population massacres, sexual violence, extrajudicial killing, destruction of civil facilities, schools, hospitals, and also ethnical killing of people, which created a humanitarian catastrophe, pushing local population to be displaced. We had difficulties, we met difficulties to have direct contact with the victims because we could not travel to the field, but we could meet some victims in the neighboring countries from the Chad government, giving us the authorization to go to the Chad in order to meet the victims. And after the publication of the first report we present to the African Union, to our Commission. And on the 20th of January 2026, we could travel to Adre in Chad. And during this visit, we could visit the field to meet people in the refugee camp of Adre and also other places, Abu Taji and Enichi at the border. We met tens of refugees. We made interviews with them. And during this mission, it was a first collaboration between the members of the African Union and also from the members of the United Nations. We received the help and from the HRS and from the PAM who help us in order to do. They helped us also for our free movement. They help us, they give us all the material, and also they help us to find places where we can stay during our stay. And we visited and we heard the testimonies of people, young people, women, thousands of people who now are living in these camps and depending on the PAM program, help and aid. All these people help us, and thank you for them for their. And we also had meetings with members of the government of Chad, of the different ministries. At the end of our mission, we found massacres of the civil, massive execution, massive sexual violences against not only women, but women, children, and also against men. In the east region, in Chad, we met population of the same ethnic group, Masalit and Fur group. And as Mrs. Muna informed, they informed us that these Masalit Fur groups, Black African minorities, were directly targeted. And we gathered all these information. We have all these information. We are now trying to prepare the second report. It will be finalized at the end of April 2026 to be presented to the next commission, and it will be public and written in the 4 languages. At the end of my intervention, I am calling international and African authorities to mobilize more funds and efforts, because the situation of these population refugees in Chad is difficult. They are surviving and they need international protection. And thank you. This is what I want to say about this mission. Thank you so much. Merci. Thank you. And now we'll give the floor.
أتيح الآن الفرصة للمفوضة سلمى الساسي، عضو بحث تقصي الحقائق الإفريقية في السودان، وأيضا عضوة اللجنة الإفريقية لحقوق الإنسان. شكرا لك.
I would like to thank all the organizers of this side event, and also I'm happy to participate with my colleagues of the human rights, the civil society in the United Nations. I would like to speak about the enforced displacement during this armed conflict, which is one of the clear evidence of what we witnessed. It was a total destruction of the system of protection to the civil population. More than 11 millions of displaced people in Sudan. It is the biggest crisis, and 4 millions now are living in neighboring countries. These displacement can be seen as an important phenomenon. In many cases, these displacements constitute a direct consequences of the violations of international humanitarian law and human rights. The works of the African Union, when in the reports, help us, as mentioned by my colleagues, and during the mandate and the mission in the field mission, we can see that we have systematic directed violations, attacks against the civilians, killing, destroying, and also ethnic attacks against one. And sometimes many populations could not even run away to survive, but this displacement cannot make an end to their suffering, but it shows the intensity of the situation. This shows clearly that these people were attacked, and because they were weak population, we have also the large scale use of sexual violence against these weak population. Our mission showed that they use some elements of impacting these dynamics of displacement, pushing people to run away, and the same population could not have free access to humanitarian. That's why this population could not benefit from no protection, and that these systematic attacks and that these mechanisms used can not only prove that these incidents happened, but they can also contribute to also show and who are the responsibles, and also to combat impunity. As mentioned before, we have these mechanisms, we have information, we have evidence, but the question is, how can we use all these elements to be used as an effective protection tools for these populations? How can these tools be used in any operational way? And also how we can use this information. These documents are important, but we need to have a follow-up and to do the protection in order to answer these priorities. That's why we have to implement 3 priorities. These 3 priorities are included in the reports of the UN Security Council. First is to protect human rights and humanitarian human rights, to stop all attacks against the civil. Second is to guarantee the access for these civilians, facilitating to them corridors in order to move freely. The third one is to reinforce all these mechanisms of protection, helping all the neighboring countries. I would like Mrs. Moderator to say that what happened in Sudan is not a consequence of what happened, but it's a clear manifestation of a failure of a system of protection, and that our responsibility today, we are committed to to have documents and also to react in order to help these population using African and UN mechanisms. We have now the facts finding elements that are ready, but we have to do follow up for the responsibility. Thank you so much. Merci. Thank you, Mrs. Salma. Now
To Ms. Rim Al Salem. She is the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls and a colleague from the Special Procedure. Rim will join us online. Please, Rim, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation to join this important side event. Excellencies, today I wanted to share with you some of the highlights from the technical visit that I undertook in December 2025 upon the invitation of the government of Sudan to Sudan. At the time, I visited 4 areas under government control in 4 states. There was Khartoum in the state of Khartoum, Al-Dabba in the northern state, Wad Madani in Al Jazeera state, and Port Sudan in the state of the Red Sea. Now, following the visit, I had shared a detailed report of my findings and recommendations with the government of Sudan. I will not go into all of these here. I wish to, however, focus on 3 issues that I believe beg highlighting and that are relevant to our discussion. First of all, I must say that despite having been a humanitarian worker all my life and having worked in crisis and conflict settings in over 13 countries, including, by the way, Darfur at the beginning of 2004, nothing could have prepared me for what I had seen and heard in the course of this visit. Nothing had prepared me for the scale and barbarity of the atrocities that were being inflicted on civilians, particularly women and girls. As we know, sexual and gender-based violence, including reproductive violence, is being used not only as a tool of war, but also ethnic cleansing and genocide. And several people recounted to me how members of the RSF, towering over their girls and women in preparation to rape them, had bragged about the imperative of raping them to improve the offspring of the non-Arab African Sudanese communities and tribes. The atrocities that are being committed against women and girls in Sudan, which is of course the subject of my mandate, but also that were committed against refugee and migrant women and girls, are not limited to rape and gang rape, but they also include many other, like extrajudicial killing, pushing them into destitution by robbing them of everything they had, including personal pieces of gold, subjecting them to forced and child marriage, selling them as slaves, including for sexual exploitation, and forcefully disappearing them. And so it will be important that any investigative mechanisms take account of the totality of crimes that are being, of course, committed against civilians, but I would say also against women and girls, and not only sexual crimes, and the crimes that affect them in very disproportionate and particular way. The trauma and the shock caused to victims of sexual violence, including gang rape, cannot be overestimated. Parents had to witness their children being raped in front of them multiple times. Female victims continue to be double victimized, as there are cases where their husband and families of survivors abandon them, pushing them into further marginalization and poverty and forcing them to resort to harmful coping mechanisms. The social norms are such that it is difficult for men who are fathers and husbands to also speak about the pain caused by witnessing these events and by the sense of failure they feel for not being able to protect their families. So I have urged the authorities to urgently also develop a strategy, including a strong communication component around the issue of sexual violence in Sudan that targets all members of society, particularly men and boys, and where religious and community leaders are fully involved in order to work with families and partners of victims to create, in particular, a more supportive environment that does not punish, blame, or re-victimize survivors and their children born out of rape. And this, I would argue, cannot wait. Otherwise, those who wish to destroy the fabric of Sudanese society will get what they want. Now, women and girls that are survivors of sexual and gender-based violence have also found it very difficult to access immediate medical attention, as well as sexual and reproductive health facilities. We know why this is the case, particularly due to the continued relentless and deliberate attacks on hospital and medical staffs and the underfunded humanitarian response, but also the stigma associated with being a survivor or the lack of information. So these realities must be urgently addressed and reversed. And finally, one issue that we don't speak about enough is the fate of children born through rape. Rape overwhelmingly by individuals affiliated with the RSF. And this issue does not receive the attention it deserves. We don't know exactly how many children are affected because statistics are not available. We know that most of these children are put for adoption or put in foster families chosen by the authorities, but it is not entirely clear whether this is truly voluntary. There is no standard operating procedure or formal vetting process for foster parents or adopting parents. But overall, I would say that here, as I've conveyed to the authorities, I am concerned there is no uniform policy on how to protect, assist, and care for children born out of rape, neither at the federal nor the state level. And more concerningly, there is little capacity, understandable, of course, but still, to follow up on these children. So a strategy must be developed urgently to assist and protect children born out of rape as a matter of priority. And I think this is something where the UN agencies and also relevant African commissions on women and children at the African Union can help. Of course, that strategy has to be in line with Sudan's obligations on the right of the child. But I believe Sudan can also benefit from some of the good practices that were adopted by countries that have had similar experiences in conflict, whether it's Bosnia, Herzegovina, Iraq, Rwanda, or others. Now, of course, a lot more can be said, but in the interest of time, I'm going to stop here. And thank you once again for having me.
Thank you very much, Reem, for your intervention and contributions. Now I would like to give the floor to two representatives of civil society organizations. I would like to start with Nazik Kabalo. She's the director of Sudan Women Rights Action. Please, Nazik, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for everyone hearing us here today, and thank you for the work of the two fact-finding missions at the African Commission and the International Fact-Finding Mission for their efforts to document the crimes committed in this conflict in Sudan. It's unfortunate that whenever new conflict in the global context come, Sudan is being pushed behind. And I hope this session today is going to remind all of the international community members attending here that this is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world today. Whatever is happening in our world now, Sudan remain 50 million people in conflict, half of them in need of humanitarian aid. Half of those in need of humanitarian aid are women and children, actually. Unfortunately, the conflict continued to expand, impacting women and girls in particular, and children. The reports of the respected commissions here focused on the situation in Al Fashir. Unfortunately, I really support every word said by Ms. Muna here regarding the legal description of what happened in Al Fashir. Thank you for naming it as it is. It was a genocide, and it is unfortunate that wars are always fought in Sudan in a genocidal way. It's always lead to genocide. And please, everyone hearing me here, it could be replicated again very, very, very soon. And we should not stand and watch another genocide and come here again and talk about it and try to document it. After it happened, we have now the conflict expanding in Kordofan. Just a few days ago, RSF committed another crimes in Bara area. 12 civilians were killed, among them 6 women, 7 people were injured. They were accused of supporting the government or the Sudanese armed forces. These are innocent civilians. In Sudan also, there is a drones war that is happening by both sides in the conflict, where also civilians are the only ones who are losing their lives across the country. The infrastructure of the country, civilian institution, including hospitals, universities, electricity station, telecommunication stations are being destroyed across the country because of this drone war that is only impacting how civilians can survive during this conflict. And especially women and girls are impacted by all of that because unfortunately, there is nowhere is safe in Sudan anymore because what is going on from the sky. Drones can hit you anywhere in Sudan at this point in time. We are also having rising threats and conflict in the Blue Nile state, in the southern eastern Sudan, where also drones attack has intensified in the last few weeks. Thousands of civilians have been moving into the major city of El Damazin, running away from the drones and the military movement by the RSF and its allies like SPLM North. I have to also mention that for women-led organizations and for human rights defenders, it is extremely difficult for us to work under what's going on in Sudan in this conflict context. You are not hearing a lot about what's going on in Sudan because we are under attack by both parties of the war. We are being detained. We are not accessing informations. We do not have freedom to speak. We are not able to move freely across the country to document. Working on human rights documentation in Sudan is a crime. And so many activists are being detained, being killed, being threatened, being forced to leave the country because they are doing that, especially women human rights defenders. I want to mention last thing that accessibility to humanitarian aid is a must to protect civilians in Sudan. When we talk about the mechanisms of protection of civilians, I don't think that troops on the ground are going to help more than giving the people in Sudan the dignity they deserve in accessing humanitarian aid, in accessing options to leave the areas where there is fighting going on. There is no evacuation processes going on in Sudan at all. People are taking difficult routes, insecure routes across the country. So fighting parties must be pressured right now to open safe routes for people to be able to evacuate, especially in all of the besieged areas in South Kordofan, North Kordofan, and also probably in new areas in Blue Nile. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nazik. I will now give the floor to Mashpa Isa. He is the program coordinator of AWAFI, which is a Sudanese organization. Thank you.
Our Sudanese organization. Thank you so much, Iwa, and thank you also for the fact-finding missions members, as well as for the special procedures members, and for the work that they are doing for the Sudan. It's really appreciated, the report that you are doing. In regard to the collaboration and working of the Sudanese civil society, while they are also facing this devastating war, and while they are also putting a huge effort in order to feed those mechanisms, it's been like an important to sing on enhancing the collaboration between the mechanisms. And I'm also would like to thank Committee for Justice for this collaboration between those mechanisms whom they are working with Sudan, the fact-finding mission for the African Commissions, as well as for the UN ones. And for us also, we're thinking to establish like a collaboration body. This can include also the accountability mechanisms like the ICC as well, whom they are working also in Sudan, particularly in Darfur region. So they will be also able to support the work of the accountability. And also it's important for the international community to support those mechanisms technically as well as financially, so they would be able to work and operate effectively and efficiently without any interruption and extension of their mandate annually. This for the fact-finding mission. And I remember that last September we were being here for the advocacy to extend the mandate, and now we are about for the next September also to advocate, and also for the African Commission one, which is renewing 6 months every 6 months, which is like interruption for them. This given the huge number of the violation and atrocities that's happening in Sudan, it's need also to sustain the work of those mechanisms. Also, it's essential to explore the establishment of the special court for Sudan, where such a court could take the form of the hybrid court, combination of the international, regional, and national legal expertise, as this model can offer advantages of integrating international standards and resources with the local context. Finally, it's crucial also to emphasize the role of the civil society organization, and also they have to be supported while they are working in very high risk environment and navigating different challenges, including the lack of the funding, including also the continued targeting from the different parties. So it's very important to be supported, as they are representing also one of the main pillars of the work of those civil society or of the mechanisms. I mean, and it's very important also to advance the collaboration between them, so they will be able to share the informations and evidence for the different atrocities and violations. I believe that the report that issued by the fact-finding missions is contained and it's documented a very huge number of atrocities, but still there is some of the atrocities that will not be reflected on the report that issued by the fact-finding missions as well as the other bodies, which is required to advance the collaboration between those mechanisms, so they will be able to document the all atrocities and violations that's happening in Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Issa. I know we are running short on time, but I would like to open the floor and take maybe 2 questions from the floor. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I wish to welcome you, Honorable Commissioner So, and your colleagues, Honorable Commissioner Saim, and Madam Salma Sassi. You are welcome in Geneva, and I'm really very glad to see also with you our dear friend and sister, Muna Rashmawi, on this panel. And this is actually what we have been looking for, that some kind of cooperation between the two fact-finding missions. And I am glad to see that cooperation is now building up, and we are looking to forward to see a joint action from both of you as the situation unfolds in the country. Commissioner, so thank you very much indeed for your assurance to us that you are taking up the matter of Sudan with seriousness. And the situation deserves. It is so acute, so dangerous, it cannot wait anymore. I have observed in the past that the intervention of the African Union and action, including the African Commission, it has really been disproportionate with the seriousness of the situation in the country. And I'm glad that to hear what you have said. I'm looking forward for further and in-depth discussion with you tomorrow when we meet, and I will confine myself here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Floor have been requested from, please proceed. Can I just ask for short interventions? We have 8 minutes left. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Aziz with the Global Tension Project. Thank you very much, the distinguished panelists, and particularly, I think, the FFM, the one of the UN and the African Union. I have a couple of questions. I think my first question is regarding to both commission. Has there been any investigation since the FFM? I think Dr. Muna has mentioned that they have managed to speak with the victims that were actually on the neighboring country. But also we heard that lately, as someone from the region, as someone who's from the region, we heard some allegation about the stolen of organs that actually taking place since the fall of Al-Fashir, which is not only one case, but I think hundreds of cases that start coming through. But it's really hard to determine that, I think, whether the fact-finding mission has also received this kind of allegation or not. That's the first question. The second question is regarding one of the civil society actually mentioned something regarding the use of drone. I believe that the use of drone, it's become, I think, one of the very, very dangerous weapon in today's world. And in particular, that we have seen it in Sudan. It's been really, it's been widely used. I mean, in areas where we have been targeting civilians. And there is also I think, a drone attack that not only the one of Bara, but also there is a one that actually took place, I think, 3 days or 4 days ago in Athena, which is really targeting, I think, people who are really gathering to celebrate the last day of Ramadan, and then there is a drone attack. So has there been any investigation to track down where the productions of these drones, and as well also the shipment of the drone in Sudan, and the responsible, has there been anywhere to hold them accountable for the oversupplying of the drone into Sudan? Thank you.
So I will now give the floor to the representative of Sudan before coming back to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, I would like to take the chance also to thank the Committee for Justice for organizing this important side event. Also, I would like to thank the panelists, the speakers. And, I have only few comments. I will try to cover it because of the time constraint on that. When the African Commission established it, there is some concern raised from here in Human Rights Council about the ability of the African Commission to discharge its mandate. Unfortunately, always there is mistrust from certain entities about the capacities of the African entities. As Sudan, we support the African solution for the African problems. We understand always there is some challenges, that this challenge is not facing only the African Commission, but even the National Commission in Sudan for funding, for the capacity, for how to dealing with some digital evidences, but we appreciate your visit and your report. We received the report. We have our comment on the content of the report, and when we go to the report published by you also to other entities like OHCHR, we find even the report with the National Commission of Sudan, there is a lot of similarities in the conclusion and in the findings of this report, especially when it comes to the atrocities committed by RSF in Darfur against the 13 communities in Western Darfur, and after that in North Darfur. In Central Sudan, there's a lot of similarities. So we focus it more than one time to have the complementarity. It is very important for us to work with the National Commission. This is very important to reach good result for our work. For example, it is easy to say that there is atrocities committed by all parties. But if you took, we need to be careful when we're using the word systematically. Because systematically, when you mention that certain parties committed this kind of a violation systematically, this means there's repetition for that kind of. I mentioned it in the morning that when you say that it is very clear to us, and even on other report, the RSF, which is the party which is committing the systematically sexual violence as the crime and the tool for war. The government of Sudan, our Attorney General, it has type of it is autonomy. It has its autonomy, And we publish it, they publish it full report and even address it the Human Rights Council, and they trying to engage with all parties, and their work it is published and they can find it with everywhere. And at the government of Sudan, they have plan for protection of civilian, and we have our work in the accountability and also in ensuring the access of humanitarian work. There is work done by Sudan. We cannot say that everything is perfect, but there is effort done by government of Sudan, so should be appreciated and should be respected. Also, there is a very important issue which is ignored in the report with the external factor. The fueling of the war in Sudan, there is another party that are fueling, they're supporting the RSF by weapon, by political support, by, yeah, thank you very much.
Your intervention. If you allow me as the moderator, because we have like 1 minute, although we did start late, 5 minutes late, I will give 1 minute to Dr. Mona, and then I'm going to give 1 minute to Commissioner So as the representative of the African Commission as we wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here and your interest. Impartiality is key. When we look at a situation, and as we did in the situation of Al-Fashir, if the responsible, the main responsible, is the rapid response, the rapid support forces, we will say that. If there are responsible, if the armed forces of Sudan are responsible, we will also say that, as we said in previous reports. We deal with issues with integrity and based on facts and law as we document them. This is really important. Thank you very much for raising the issue of the attacks, the drone attacks. We are very aware of that. Thank you both. And we are looking into this. This is something that we will soon be reporting into. The story of Al-Fashir hasn't finished yet. We will do more on Al-Fashir, but we will do on Kordovan. We will look into Kordovan. We'll look at that Blue Nile. We'll look at other situations, and we will report impartially with pointing responsibility to those who are responsible. Of course, just 1 minute, one second. Of course, access to the country is important. And we call on all parties, we call on the government of Sudan to facilitate access, our access to the country. We haven't been able to access Sudan. Sudan has a story to tell. If they don't want to tell it to us, it's up to them. But we are seeking access to Sudan. But if we are denied access, we'll still report on it. We'll still report on the situation, and we will say who's cooperating and who is not. Thank you very much.
1 minute to Honorable Commissioner So as we conclude. Thank you.
Je remercie toutes les personnes qui sont intervenues.
Thank you, all the speakers. As I told before, we are collecting all information, and we are not defending no party. All these allegations will be treated, will be investigated. We don't have no conclusion now. We are doing investigation, and after we discuss with the victims, after we'll issue the conclusions. We are happy to, as mentioned by the representative of Sudan, that we have also the work of the National Commission of Human Rights. I'm asking you, telling you to give us all these documents by the National Commission of Human Rights, to send out all these documents.
But I just want to leave you with one thought, which was, wars in Sudan are always fought in a genocidal manner. Let's all remember that. And I invite the international community that has witnessed this event to also act. And remember that our mandate and us as individuals, we are here to save lives and to protect human rights. That's my invitation for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.